So here's something that I've come across that really resonates with me. It's an idea from the American author Robert Greene, and he's discussing the nature of stupidity. So the main insight from this is that stupidity comes about when we fool ourselves with half knowledge about a subject. So that's when we learn a few things about a subject, but that knowledge is still at a superficial level. And the problem with that is that it's very easy to persuade ourselves that we are experts in that situation because we have that knowledge, but really we don't understand all the subtleties that a true expert would. And based on that knowledge, we then rush into certain actions. To other friends, fear and greed can come into play. Now, he doesn't talk about that explicitly, but I think that's part of what he's saying here. But he gives the really interesting example of cryptocurrencies. And when you look at that situation through this lens, you can see, hey, wow, that's a really powerful idea. What he does explicitly talk about, and I'll put a link to his video in the description below, is the way that this creates a dynamic where in taking a decision based on this sort of half information, the decision maker feels the need to try to prove this to themselves and to everyone else. That you get filled with this certainty based on this half knowledge and you go charging into a project. Now, I'm not an expert on Bitcoin or cryptocurrency or any of that stuff. I don't have any investments in it. And the reason I don't is because I don't feel that I have enough knowledge of this area to justify investing in it. I just feel that I just wouldn't know what I was doing in doing that. Now, I'm sure plenty of people have made money out of it, but I'm not going to rush into doing it just because other people are, because I think the uncertainties associated with it are pretty huge compared to most other kinds of investments. That's my personal opinion, of course. But the real point is this. I do know people who zealously try to sell me on the idea of crypto coin. And this is where Robert Greene's ideas really resonate with me, because it's exactly like he describes. It sounds like they're trying so hard to convince themselves that what they want to believe is true. And when I ask them things like, how confident are you in this? And have you lost money in this? I get a nervous smile and I see sweat on the brow. And when I really dig into it, it's pretty clear that they really don't understand what they're doing. They just talk about Fibonacci sequences and getting their investing strategy right. And if they do this, this is going to eliminate mistakes that they might make in the future. But it really suggests a self-doubt. And to quote Robert Greene, it's trying to use that conviction to drown out this self-doubt. Or at least that's how I see it. But I'm not necessarily saying what they're doing is wrong. It's just, it seems to me it's too much of a gamble. Maybe they're right, maybe they're wrong, but how much money do you want to throw away on a coin toss? Which, if you don't really understand what you're doing, it seems to me to be a good analogy. In fact, if you really don't understand what you're doing, it's not even a coin toss, because you're playing the game as a sucker. How I see it anyway. The other thing that really resonated with me was how Robert Greene described what happens when things start to go wrong. That when things don't go to plan, you're not prepared for it, and you try to react, but all you do is make things worse, followed by more and more unintended consequences. Now, I hate to say this, but that sounds a bit too familiar in terms of what's happened to some of these people. And once again, I could be wrong. Maybe they're making loads of money, I don't know, but my main concern is that they just don't seem to know what they're doing.